that direction is Saint Germain. It used to be the centre of philosophy in Paris. Scholars of the day would meet in cafes and discuss philosophical issues. And then a few further miles in that direction is the City of Science and Industry, a celebration of French and in fact world science. But what is the relationship between science and philosophy?
Science is the act of comparing while exercising control. The most basic realization of this is an experiment where the experimenter studies two situations that are identical except for one change in one of the situations, and then they argue that any differences that are observed in the outcomes have been caused by that one change. Now that's the scientific method, but everything I've just said is philosophy. It's a philosophy of science. Essentially, it's some thoughts about how we can construct knowledge. Now, in testing for a difference between the two situations, the scientist will come up with a probability, and the probability will say something like, there's a 95% probability that these two situations have not been caused by the same underlying process. In other words, the one change that they made in one of the situations is likely to have caused the difference. And if you look in scientific papers, you will see these. They're called p-values, but they will never claim to have proved a difference between the two situations. Now, a philosophy of science allows us to construct knowledge about the world, but philosophy as a method in its own right also allows us to construct knowledge about the world. This is not appropriate for all problems, but for some problems a philosopher is able to state with absolute certainty. So whereas the scientist is stating with 99% certainty, a philosopher can make absolute statements, and I would include all mathematical results in this. But if you don't want to include mathematics, there still are problems that you can solve with certainty using philosophy. Now, there are a number of excellent videos on YouTube, I'll put a link down here somewhere to some of them, that demonstrate solving problems using philosophy. There's a famous example that asks to prove that there was at least one point on planet Earth where at the opposite point on planet Earth, the temperature is the same. Now imagine trying to do that with the scientific method. It would be hugely expensive. It would probably involve satellites and measures of temperature taken all around the planet, which you couldn't do. So there would be a margin of error because you might be taking a temperature reading every metre or 5 metres or 10 metres. And even after you do all of that, you will end up with a statement like, within a 99% confidence limit, we can say that the temperature is the same. So you're not absolutely certain that you have found a point where the temperature opposite is identical. Now, if we attack the same problem with philosophy, we can solve it, and it doesn't cost us anything. We don't have to leave this room. So imagine planet Earth, and what you do is you go all the way around, let's say, the equator of the Earth, and at each point you take away the temperature of the point opposite. So let's say that you start with a really hot temperature and on the other side it's really cold. So when you take those away, you end up with a positive number, and you work all the way around planet Earth. Eventually you'll get round to the point that was opposite where you started. Now what's going to happen is you've got a cold point and you're taking away a hot point, the hot point being where you started. And when you do that, you're going to end up with a negative number. Now you cannot go from a positive number to a negative number without passing through zero. So on your way around planet Earth, you have found a point where if you take away the temperature opposite, you get zero. In other words, the two temperatures are the same. And so we have solved our problem with absolute proof, without any margin of error. and philosophy did that. So for certain problems, philosophy allows us to solve them with absolute proof, whereas science is nothing without philosophy. Science cannot create knowledge without a philosophy of science underpinning it. And there it is, science and philosophy. If you like these videos, subscribe down here somewhere.